Strabane. This is my father's town, and Strabane, or the White Shore, from the bright pebbles that the river carries here. It was peopled first by friars, saints' names survive around it. Melmount, Ballycoolman, Ernie for an oratory, Camas juxta Mourne. Settled first by Catholic Scots before the plantation proper, the Hamiltons of Paisley taking over the Kirch and Viard, the poet's seat at Baronscourt. The Hamiltons became the Dukes of Abercorn, who gave their name to the square that is not really a square, but still collecting ground rents on the little buildings there. Strabane is in a pocket of mountains, the River Mourne fed by the Sperrins, Knockavoe, Belcoo, Bessie Bell, Croghan. Names flowing down into the town too for housing estates and parks. And to the west, the River Finn flows into it at Lifford, its waters from the high hills of Donegal, the gap at Barnesmore, which feeds the flow of river water and of people, come in streams from Gweedore, Glenties, Crawley, bringing the old language with them, and the ugness, the loneliness of standing in this square to be hired. Most only children sleeping in barns, working for rich farmers. Many would stay and make their lives here. My father's family from the island of Arranmore. Along the river and in Donegal, people grew flax in their fields, the little blue flower growing well in the river's wet beds that would rot and ret it for linen. First they worked in their homes, and then the herdmans came to build a mill and a village, a model English village by an Irish town. My grandfather worked in the mill. My mother vowed she never would, seeing the sinister snow of scotched flax that hid her father when she was sent to bring him his lunch, and made him wheeze at night when he came home, going out into the yard and burning a circle of white powder which he breathed into his beleaguered lungs to try to clear them. One snow swapped for another, a bowl by his bed to collect the poison he'd cough up in the night. Bicyanosis, the price the workers paid for the privilege of a wage and a tiny street house. The river was my grandfather's escape. On the door of his dark outside toilet, he'd hang the flies he tied with brightly coloured thread. Hair from squirrels' tails and badgers, the breast feathers of the pheasant would glint in the dark. Tied Apache-style hackles turned to mimic the shrimp or dragonfly, unlikely in a place we would dread. He would lift small brown trout and salmon grills from the Mourne under the swinging bridge at Burney, the bridge my other grandfather had painted in places where the villagers still went in summers to sunbathe and paddle at little pebble beaches or sandy corners, knowing all the pools the fish liked and the weathers. The weir intrigued us with its raging rush of water near where the salmon leapt, and a heron stood lonely in wait of them. The weir's energy loud beside the deathly still depths of the lade that brought water to the mill, and where two little brothers drowned, one after another in successive years, their mother marked in what was left of life by their shadowed loss. We were taught to fear the river for its dangers, for river holes that were hidden and secret, but dared each other to cross the old railway bridge that was rusted and gaping and long disused. My father took me to travel on the last train out of Sion Mills. After he died, I'd find he'd kept this ticket stump, and a photo shows my young father holding me at the window as it left the station, me plump in a knitted pixie hat. Summer in Sion meant the tennis courts, the home field, and cricket down the mill lane. Long days playing in the fields by the railway lines and in the sheep tunnels underneath. Big spiders crawling in the stones between the old sleepers, cattle stinking in long grass. In school, Mrs. Brady taught us to paint the trees in each of their seasons, the big chestnuts that lined the village streets, and the beech trees whose mast we painted in bright colours in her class. A countercurrent flowed above the river at Lifford, where the Mourne meets the Finn to form the Foyle. Under the bridge, salmon, trout, heron, kingfishers. Above, for years, miraculous cargo carried in pockets, bags, knickers and prams, an argosy of all that was rationed in the north but available in the south. Chocolates, butter, sugar and shoes, all you could wish for. My mother's pale, buck-skinned confirmation pumps, ordered into her shop in Lifford, sent from Dublin, then collected by her father and smuggled across. Strabane was a very old town to my child's eyes. It smelled of coal fires and cooking fat. We would be taken to the forge to watch the alchemy of the farrier, to hear the music of metal and stare into the black eyes of the horse that didn't flinch as he held its foot to the fire. We went there on Fridays for messages and on Sundays to Town Hall Street for the Sunday papers after Mass. Packy shop was beside the Foresters' Hall, the rehearsal rooms where the brass band practiced. The little oblong march cards that attached to my father's clarinet by a lyre, oddities yellowing on our piano for years. Gentlemen then still wore three-piece black suits, like my father's Uncle Charlie, the bandmaster, who seemed a relic of Dickens, a cross between Charlie Chaplin and Einstein with his wonderful moustache. The folds of his suit, musty and rich, as he'd pull out a handkerchief to snort snuff or check his gold watch on a chain. As we grew up, it seemed glamorous. My mother's cousins, one who shared my name, visited in winter in their London miniskirts and took me and my sister shopping on a Saturday night to Wright's Drapery with its long mirrors, deep carpets and beautiful clothes. Then to Cassoni's for chips and Coke floats. There were taxis outside the commercial hotel, rain on the streets, dark puddles lit by the shop windows, and downtown by patchouli in our heads. And then something came to blow the past away. A curly-haired youth from Derry marched into the old town hall, the very heart of the town for 200 years, where people went to dance on its well-sprung floor and for theatre, and said, "Everyone out," leaving an absence in Ireland's name that seems even now not to have filled. In those days, we'd hear a dull thump in the distance and know another one had gone off and wonder if anyone had died. One day, in school, they sent us home via High Sion, the ferry mound, to miss the bomb, and when the sound came up the road, we wondered where the target was, only to find it was our friends' family's chip shop. On the news, we heard stories of people shot through their doors, and when a traveller's car broke down and he rang our bell in the night, I'd lie in bed willing my father not to respond, imagining the figure on the other side shooting through the glass. We worried too on all the nights he did the census in 71 around the plum and the television mast when they said they'd kill the census takers. Danny McLaughlin's shop was another target when, in the name of Ireland, underpants and socks would fly into the sky, and after each bomb, the seal in which my father acquired gorgeous tweeds from the Scottish Islands and Donegal, Harris, McNuts, Magee, that would never truly lose the smell of smoke, so that when you opened my parents' wardrobe for years after, there was that small trace of something dark and my father smelling of a forest fire. One night in Frognall in Hampstead, when I had been years away, the name of the town was suddenly on the news, and 3 young men's faces shot dead in a field at the head of the town, waiting to shoot the army. And not long after, my English friend came back with me, and walking over the bridge, couldn't understand why his countrymen with guns treated him with suspicion and asked where he was from, until he spoke, and they heard a voice from Doncaster. Today, approached from the old bridge over the river, the town stands like a huddle of herons, grey and hunched, the old buildings open to the sky, and swoops of pigeons lighting on the roofs, roosting in the gaps among the buddleia that sprout from unused chimney pots. Ghost names of businesses that once thrived, a palimpsest caught between the gables. Harley's drapers, Devine's tea merchants, Smith's mills. How do the salmon know how to return? They say the river smells imprints on the smolts, so that they know the very pebble bed they were born in. Not the river alone, but its tributary. And so they come back, year after year, if they survive the ocean winters, swimming against the current, fresh water washing off silvery camouflage that kept them safe in the sea, taking on the browns and orange of the river's peaty bed instead, until they are home, to make another red and begin the cycle all over again.